I'm here today with Jeff from Spectra at their headquarters in the beautiful town of Boulder, Colorado. We're going to be talking about, intriguingly, a software-only product that Spectra is just announcing. Now, Jeff, we're here to talk about StorCycle, the new announcement from Spectra. Going to try and get through this interview without talking about tape, which is obviously what you're famed for. But rather than start as one might normally with what the product is, I'd like to understand why you made it. What is the business problem, the IT problem that you're trying to solve?
Sure. So many organizations, they've got large amounts of data. It's critical to their business, and it's growing rapidly. Typically, they're storing all this data on an expensive primary or tier 1 storage. But it turns out that about 80% of that data is inactive and doesn't need to be on that tier of storage, and it's costing them millions of dollars a year.
Okay. You are the product guy, as I say, so I'll let you loose. Give me a little idea of what the product actually is.
So what StorCycle is going to do is it's going to identify all the inactive data on that primary storage device, and it's going to migrate it to a lower cost perpetual tier of storage. It'll then protect that data and make sure that it's safe for long-term storage, and then it'll make that data easily accessible to users. By implementing such a solution, customers can save 70% or more on their overall storage costs.
I'm smiling a little because you've just said a word that every vendor says. Easily.
Right.
You can see from this ESG research that's on the screen that most users, 2/3, think that IT is actually getting more complex. How is this genuinely easy for IT, but also for the actual end user?
Sure. So the way StorCycle works is it's installed on a single server, and then everything is done from there. So all it takes is a single VM or physical server that the organization provides. User access to the system can be done via a web interface or via the paths where the files are or were located. So very simple, no other special agents or software to install throughout the network or on user devices.
How easy is it? I'm an end user. I want to get something back that's been moved to this perpetual level.
Sure.
What do I have to do? Do I need to go to school for another semester?
Absolutely not. So you can go to the original location of the data, where we'll provide a couple different methods to restore the data, either with synchronous or asynchronous processes, including options for completely transparent access, as well as a web-based tool where you can search for all the files. They can use it to archive and restore their own data, so they don't have to actually bother the IT department to set up archive operations or to get that data back. And again, all done with a web interface or via the file path.
So not really a lot more complex than finding something on my laptop.
Correct. And users don't have to install anything on their laptops. It's just that one installation on the server.
Okay, all right. And where is this perpetual data being stored? Where can it be stored?
Sure. So we've got a number of locations where the data can be tiered to in the perpetual tier. The first is the cloud, of course, so we definitely want to allow users to be able to move data to the cloud. The other would be local storage. It could be in a couple different forms. One would be a NAS device. It could be Spectra NAS storage, our Black Pearl NAS, or it could be some other vendor's storage. It can also be our Black Pearl Object Storage Disk solution, which also allows users to tier to tape and to other sites and the cloud as well.
You're known as a company for data protection. This clearly has a role there, I imagine, and then I'll come to another question after that.
Sure. So the main focus of StorCycle, of course, is to move the inactive data to this perpetual tier. But we also have use cases where customers want to make disaster recovery copies of data, such as video footage that they've maybe just shot in the field. They want to take back and make a protective copy immediately so that nothing happens to it. So they can move that to the perpetual tier as well, more as a disaster recovery type model.
I'm presuming there could be some benefits for primary storage as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So in addition to the massive cost savings, we're guessing, depending on a typical situation, it could be 70%. By reducing the amount of data on the primary storage, you're likely going to speed it up. Most systems that have less data on them move faster. And if you can get that data set small enough on the primary tier, that may enable you to move to a newer type of faster primary tier that uses some of the latest technologies like NVMe, which is more expensive. But if you've got a smaller data set to move onto that storage, then it can be more affordable.
All right. If I were to give you a sentence to summarize this, what would you say?
StorCycle moves inactive data from a primary tier and migrates it safely to the perpetual tier while making it accessible to users easily.